Hello everyone, I'm Steve. Mark's not around, and this is SmokeySteveAndMarc. Welcome or welcome back. Happy Thursday. So, haven't seen anybody in forever. I've been lurking through the comments sections for the past few days playing catch up from when we weren't as active on the channel. So I thought it was a good time to check in with a real talk. So I can fill you guys in on some of the details of where I've been and how that's going and where it's supposed to go, and the weird mix of feelings I kind of had about being in the hospital. So, I'll finish with the end, so if you don't want to watch the whole thing, I'm doing a little bit better. It's a little better every day. I'm taking some antibiotics, medication every day for the next week or two. So as far as they predicted, this is looking like it's going in a really good direction. So I have that I'm going to turn a corner feeling probably within a day. I thought it was going to be today. It's not today, but it probably into tomorrow morning. So, what the hell happened? Well, as many of you know, and as I've mentioned, I was a fat and lonely child. Part of being fat from that age until now is that even though I've never been super morbidly obese, I have loose skin from gaining and losing all the time. One of the places it clusters is in between my thighs, so they rub together sometimes. And depending on whether I'm gaining or losing weight, or whether it's summer, or if chafing's involved, or the style of underwear, at any rate, there was, in my area, groin area, on the upper thigh, there was what I thought was maybe like an ingrown hair, little bump. Of course, I can't get a good look there because I can't get my head that far down there. So I had to kind of feel around. I had Mark take a look, and it kind of sort of looked like maybe it was just that. Like, so of course, me being the idiot that I am, poke this, poke that, whatever. And it seemed to be more than just like a boil or something, because it didn't really have a head on it. There was nothing to pop. And then as the days, this started about 2 weeks ago, and then as the days started to go on, the area that, was where the pain started became hard to the touch, hot to the touch, and swollen. It was getting difficult to walk, and the pain was going from in that area. It was a mixture of me screwing with it and the infection I probably fostered growing. So, waiting on it, not thinking too much. And then really quickly, it started to hurt almost down to my knee, and it was crawling up my inside of my insides here. I could feel it. They were tender to the touch. Everything felt like a bruise. Everything felt like a big bruise. So, Saturday, just as I was starting to put together coffee talk, I had one of those, I can't do this, something's wrong, I can't wait for another doctor's appointment. So Mark and I live near two hospitals, like we're talking like a block away or less. So still, we drive, and we left around 2:30, I would say, Saturday. This is the previous Saturday to now, or the most recent Saturday. And so we drive over to the hospital. Now, it's not a particularly busy hospital, probably because there's two nearby, and there was nobody in line in the ER in the waiting room when we got there. So I waddle up because I'm having difficulty not just walking without some level of pain, but walking like my gait is different, because I'm having swelling in areas that normally there isn't, and it's making doing everything a little more tedious. So we got into the ER, I signed in, I sat down, forgot I had a change in insurance, which we'll discuss later. And they wanted to do some of that paperwork. And before they even drew blood, they're like, by the way, if you're admitted, we waive the $150 ER fee. Oh, you generous group of saints. Thank you so much. You're going to charge me $5,000 a day. You might as well. So, get back into the ER triage. And it's an ER, like in any city. And Scranton's not that big, but it's big enough that the people are on gurneys in the hallways and doubled up rooms and things like that. Luckily, there had been some changes. Unfortunately or fortunately, post-COVID, they got rid of their double rooms. Pretty much everybody gets a single if you're admitted to the hospital. So while I'm waiting in the ER, they come and draw blood, and then they want a urine test, and some other things they wanted to do. They took down the list of my meds, put a pin in that, of all the psychiatric medication that I take, and made a list of it. And then the decision was made pretty quick that I was going to be getting, once my white count came back, I don't know, they said normal's 10 to 13. I'm not a doctor, and even if you're a doctor and you're watching, I'm not your patient. But I'll throw the numbers out if they mean anything to anyone. The white blood cell count was the thing that was keeping me in the hospital, because they checked the first day, and they told me, everyone gets told something, that normal-ish would be like 10 to 13,000, whatever the increment is. Anyway, when I came in, it was at 17. And that was the first night they gave me IV antibiotics into the next day. When they drew my blood again, it was up to 21. So there was a switch in medications that they had to do to try to get it down. It was getting treatment essentially, I think, for MRSA, some of the hardcore stuff. And from the ER, they put the lead in, and I had a nurse, God bless him. I could tell he was a little inexperienced. And everybody has to learn on somebody, so he tried to put a lead in, couldn't find a vein. Some phlebotomists and nurses say I have very small veins. Others say they roll, whatever. So he tries in 2 places to get a lead into me, ends up with my left elbow, just so we're all on the same page. Look what they did to me. Look what they did. It looks like I created and found a pretty big problem on the walk home. So the nurse puts the lead in, and they start with some medications, and my potassium was off for some reason, so they were giving me potassium in a bag too. And they brought me upstairs, and the doctor was like, well, I'm in the ER. I'm like, how long do I need to be here? Because I thought in my head, I've had cysts before in different places, and those can be drained, antibiotics given, packed wound, and you can go home the same day, if not the next. But that was not how things were going to be. They were like 2 days minimum. You're going to be here. This is not safe. Your white count's going up with antibiotics. We can't risk sending you home. And plus the pain was starting to spread from that area to other parts of my body. And they were starting to have swelling and discoloration too. So I go up to a room Saturday night. Mark stayed with me through the ER and then a little in the room. And I told him, go home. I'm going to be hours. It's a hospital. So they moved me up to the penthouse, the top floor of the hospital, and I had a handicap corner suite due to the way the rooms were when I came in. And anyone who's ever been in the hospital, there's so many reasons it's not good. But one of the small things that annoys me a lot is when they had to move the lead from over here to over here, but not before trying 5 other places with 3 staff. Luckily, thank God, an LPN who'd been doing it for 30 years came in. The RNs grabbed her, and she was able to get blood out of a rock. She pulled something over my hand, like some light that shone down, and it seemed to give a relief map of the veins in my hand, and she used that to identify where it could go in. Back to the thing I don't like about hospitals, every time I had to go to the bathroom, unplug that, pick it up, make sure I don't rip it out of my hand while I'm going, because it took 45 minutes to get it in. Walk to the bathroom, push the IV stand in, shut the door, use the bathroom, pull it out, and I wasn't drinking a whole ton, but they were giving me like liters of fluid, one after another, so I wasn't particularly thirsty and I had to pee constantly. So that was, I was upset. Let's talk about the feelings associated with it. The nuts and bolts at the ending was that I stayed for 3 days. I stayed Saturday, Sunday, Monday night, and then Tuesday, Tuesday, day before yesterday. I didn't know I was leaving. I thought I'd be staying another day. They gave me another bag of antibiotics, and that was it. Then I found out from one of the nurses, oh, you're leaving in half an hour. I am. She's like, yeah, sit down. Let me get this out of your arm. I don't care. I want to leave. I haven't wanted to be here at all. I don't like hospitals. And so they took it out and I left. I called Mark. I said, might as well walk home. I certainly was more mobile than dragging an IV stand. And even though it hurt, I wasn't in the position where I need like a walker, wheelchair, or anything like that. I've been living on ice packs, though, I have to say. So they sent me home, and I got a 2-week prescription for some kind of antibiotic. There are all these names that I couldn't remember. So they sent me home with the oral of that, and I take that for a week and treat with Tylenol over the counters, that kind of thing, let them know if it gets worse, and they scheduled a follow-up appointment with my primary practice, because the doctor isn't there. So I have a PA that used to be one of his, and that's for the 18th. So it'll be a week Tuesday. I go back and get checked. So there's some follow-up in the community. I wasn't just, patched up in the hospital and released. So the path of that now is that I take the antibiotics and we wait. Like a lot of people who take antibiotics, sometimes you get a little bit of Montezuma's revenge because they're strong. I'm one of those people, but to that end, things have been not severe. I didn't have a fever the whole time. Symptoms are funny. I didn't have a fever the whole time. Never went above 98.0. I run a 97.5 usually. No fever, and I wasn't taking Tylenol to reduce a fever. or anything like that. So that was a little bit different. I didn't have general malaise, achiness. I had low energy, and I'll tell you, I didn't eat much in the hospital because we do OMAD. And there's more reasons than just physical that I like OMAD. The idea of eating something the next morning, Sunday morning, they bring me a tray. And God bless people that work in kitchens and hospitals, because you think people who are in touch and go places in their life wouldn't be so effing picky about whether it was Sanka, decaf, what, you know what I mean? So, God love them. So we're home, and things are okay now. Now, as to feelings about the whole event, a few. First, for y'all, thank you very much. Not to blow smoke, I was reading the comments while I was in the hospital. I wasn't hearting everything because I didn't want to jump in and get myself engaged and talk, and I wasn't sleeping well, and there's some other things going on, so I wasn't able to keep up as best I could. But the words of encouragement were great. Mark, the people I know who were checking up on Mark individually and in chats and in videos to let him know he was doing okay, because I leaned on him pretty hard. Emotionally, this was more than I thought it was probably going to be. My feeling going there was, I don't know, I did something wrong. So I did something wrong. The only times I'd ever spent time in the hospital overnight prior to this was in a psych ward or in a rehab, some extended care place where the rules are a little bit different and the expectations are a little bit different. You're never alone in either of those settings. You're never left by yourself. You can't be trusted. And when the nurse came in to my place on Sunday afternoon and was like, "Do you want me to shut the door?" I'm like, "You can shut the door?" She's like, "Sure, you have a panic alarm. Don't you want your privacy?" So that was news to me. And I felt like I needed to be like overly apologetic and overly grateful to the people that were helping, even if they weren't doing a very good job. And there are some amazing nurses in this world. And then there are some others. And that's pretty much true everywhere, whether it's Walmart, a hospital, wherever it is, there's always going to be people that are great at it, who love it, who've done it for 30 years, people who suck at it, but did it for 30 years because, you gotta have a job. And like any place, usually the people lower on the totem pole were the most chatty and talkative. The guy who came to get my lunch menu was nice, and the phlebotomists were nice, and the guy from urology was nice, and there was a woman from housekeeping who'd come in and we'd bullshit every day. She's like, "Didn't you live up at Valley View?" "No, ma'am." I know someone just like you. So we had to talk about mistaken identity for 10 minutes or so. So there were some good people. So when you need them, they show up, and they showed up for me there. But the emotions of being there. Hadn't been in a place that wasn't my fault. Mental illness and addiction aren't that fault, of course, but internally that's how I was processing them, and I guess to some extent still did. I would get so periodically upset while I was there. I hadn't cried that kind of way since the eviction. Not the eviction, what was it? Condemnation. And we had to leave on such short notice, and that caught me off guard. So I'm like, so Mark stayed a little bit, and he visited, because we were only a block away from home, and then he went home, and the crying started again. And the one time I called, and it was late, but I was lonely, and of course Mark says call, text anytime. Well, I have nowhere to be and nothing to do right now except to not rip this IV stand out of my arm. So I would call and check in with him. My parents came to visit, and my parents called too. And same thing, I'd be getting weepy talking about it. But it was very nice. It was very touching. It was very family. It's always very different now because my parents were always the rescuers. They're the ones who drive him to the psych ward, drive to jail, go pick him up. He just had court, and they were along for the ride or die stuff that we did during all those years. It's different now though, because my attention gets, they came and checked on it, but they're in it because they're my parents and they care about me. But they're not in it like the primary emotional caretakers or physical caretakers. They're just kind of like friends who come and check on you, which is nice. Having Mark do the same thing. The hospital gave us zero issue when I said, my husband's coming in with me to sit. I want my husband to sit in on this. I like to say my husband. And everybody was super understanding, no raised eyebrows. And Mark was able to participate a little bit when he had come by initially just to hear what was going on. Now, as to the faults, It's only 15 minutes. I'll keep the faults short. Mental health care in America is garbage. Mental health care that I got when I went to this facility was garbage. To create context, this was a hospital that does not have psychiatric staff beyond a shrink on call. And I wasn't going to be getting anything, probably just accept my meds there, which is fine. Not every hospital can specialize in everything. So, that's okay. So coming in through the ER, I gave them the list of all my psych meds, read them off as best I could remember, and said, here are these. So what would happen is that they would order those prescriptions, and they'd be up on the floor when I got there. Some sooner than later. Hospitals have different formularies, some that will cover certain drugs and not others. So the first night I'm there, Saturday into Sunday, I'm like, I haven't had any of my meds yet. I asked for something for nausea, and they gave me a shot in the stomach, which helped me sleep, frankly. And the nurses that were over third shift, it's thankless work to do third shift in a hospital. I mean, a lot of the jobs are hard, very difficult, emotionally taxing, and people's ability to have bedside manner, which was incredible at this hospital. People were certainly kind, accommodating. I never had so much ice water brought to me in my life that I didn't ask for. They would just come around for rounds and bring it. But one of the reasons I think I was so emotional and having a hard time controlling myself, it was an upsetting situation, it was a health scare, and I got none of my psych meds for about a day and a half. So Sunday, going into Monday, I flagged down the hospitalist. By the way, is this new? Hospitalist? I know it's a thing, but I don't get what it was. All she did was ask me all the exact same questions that everybody else did. And I was feeling not quite myself and said, I don't mean to, but isn't this in my chart? I already told somebody. So I don't usually get salty. Spicy tends to be how I roll. Don't usually get salty. So not having access to my psych meds was tough. It's the kind of thing, if you miss a couple days worth of that, it can take like a week and a half to recoup. And, it was a good time to have my mind together as best as possible, and we're not helping the situation. I had zero appetite while I was there. Never ordered off the menu, barely ate. I would get toast and I'd smather as much butter as I could on one slice and eat it, and that was it. I'm like, let me just get some calories in, because I don't want to eat pancakes and all this shit. Like, I don't feel good, and I don't want to look at my hand feeding myself. So I got like grilled cheese, french fries, mac and cheese, like the kiddie plate. Every meal I got the kiddie plate, maybe a yogurt. My parents dropped by and brought me some fruit and some candy, and Mark brought over birthday cake because my birthday was like the day before. So it's a birthday I'll remember, definitely remember. So the mental health there was compromised. I almost had a discussion with a nurse. There was a miscommunication. Not exactly. She misunderstood. Let's put accountability where it goes. The dosing of one of my medications. I'll throw some numbers out to you. I have one medication that is 4 milligrams 3 times a day. Okay. So the dose they have to distribute is 8 milligrams, and the directions in the chart say 8 milligrams by 0.5. So they're going to be giving me half of the 8, and I'll get the 4 milligrams. She takes the half of the half and hands me 2. And God forgive me, I think a lot of her English was limited. But when I said, no, that's not the right dose, can you please double check? I take 4. I know, I've been taking it for years. And she's like, no. Smile hand to me. I said, is there anyone else to talk to? She's like, oh, it's late. So I took the lower dose. I knew what it was going to mean, and I knew it was going to happen. And I also knew I was going to bring it up before I left. So the next morning I mentioned it to my nurse, and she was like, she's like, let me make it. She put a physical post-it on the computer. And I said, you have to understand, this isn't an issue with every nurse. This nurse misunderstood. And I work in advocacy for a living. I'm not uncomfortable asking a few times for the same thing if I haven't received it. But this was a medication issue. This was a medication error. And it's not really for me to decide if it's a really big deal or not. The big deal or not is getting the right meds. So I didn't snitch. I fucking straight told on her. I said she wasn't listening to me. She dismissed me a number of times. She gave me the offer to take this half of a dose or nothing. And these were the choices I was left with. And it was 11 o'clock at night. No one's in the hospital at 11 except the suckers who work 12-hour shifts over the weekend. So Emotionally, it was a little bit hard. Getting my meds all together was a little bit hard. Getting them in order was difficult. And the first night there, they had to change. When I heard my white count went up, I was a little scared from the night I got there to the next, because I had bagged medicine, which I never had before, in the lead, and they were pushing everything through that. I didn't get any narcotic painkillers because that's not how I roll. But I did get a few shots of Toradol, which took the edge off. And so the pain subsided, and then I started to feel better about Mark's right down the street. So I'm never far away. And I found out, like I said, Tuesday morning I was going to go home, and I was happy to be going home. So right now I'm icing myself quite a bit. Quite a bit. I wasn't pain-free when I left the hospital, but I wanted to get out. And it was not my pushing, but their assessment that it was time for me to go home. Otherwise, I would have just stayed a few more days and they would have administered IVs. But I don't think my insurance company would go for that. Once you can step down an expensive level of care, they won't pay for anything else. So all that eventually gets sorted out. Got my prescriptions. Mark went to the pharmacy for me. And Mark was also a superstar on the emotional stuff. The first night I was so upset. And he texts me or calls me, and he's like, "Look outside." So I go over, drag my pole with me, and he was outside. I'm on the 9th floor looking down, and it's our street. I'm on a hospital on our street. And I look down, and he's waving, so he was there for me, which is a big help. And then my parents were there for him. It's all a big circle. So, and then you guys were there for all of us and offering support and reassurance that, we won't all leave the channel before you come back. So the last couple weeks since I was dealing with this, it messed up my mood, even before the whole hospital level of things. And it was impacting work, it was impacting things I enjoy. So I'm hoping as this finds its way out, I can find myself back to interests beyond ice packs again. I've been keeping up with Our Fair Lady, Chantal, for a couple weeks, and my plan is to have a recap on Saturday for that, a real video, not a live. Probably a chit chat or something tomorrow night, and then I think we'll go live. I don't know if we're live on Sunday. We had a summer schedule that we were going to institute, and by the time we started it, there was a whole bunch of bullshit going on, and we weren't able to keep it. So I'll check with Mark and see what we're going to try to have as something to look forward to, something to predictable, something you can see that you can watch, and you'll see it coming up again soon. So we'll see. She bought all these plus-size men's shirts. It looks terrible. So, Amy's life journey is looking a little more stylish, I think. So at any rate, that was my little saga. And I'm home, thankfully. I can eat, I can breathe. I came home, saw the kitties. Bandit came up and sat with me in my little recliner. And just let me know that even though he hates me, it was uncomfortable without me here. I don't think he'll ever do it again, but I don't care. And it was good to see Oscar. My parents stopped by for a visit the same day. They brought some Diet Pepsi with them. And what else did I want? Something else they brought with. Oh, delicious dessert, so Mark didn't have to go to the store. And they came by and hung out for a little while. And I've been in touch with work. Today I worked about 5 hours. When I was in touch with work, I have the paid time off to use. I'd rather not use it being sick than, being in Tahiti. But so it goes, I guess. And I've been working when I can and then not. So tomorrow I'll probably do again. Maybe work a whole day tomorrow. Working from home. Because I don't, at the moment, not yet, have the comfort of sitting, standing, or walking around a lot without either pain starting within 20 minutes. I can get up and around and do errands and stuff, but then have to sit down, rest, and ice because the area's swelling and shrinking and swelling and shrinking when I'm icing it. And then if I do anything too long, it starts to hurt again, and I need to ice it and cool the whole area down and have another Diet Pepsi and play with the cats. And now life resumes. Life resumes. So thank you guys for being there for us and for being there for Mark, for checking in, words of encouragement, all that kind of stuff. Always appreciated. Always, always, always. So good looking, guys. So that's all I got for today. Thank God. So thank you all for joining me and thank you all for watching. Please do subscribe. Hit the notification bell. You get alerts when we have new videos and go live. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. All of that's listed in the description down below. Thank you, and we'll catch up with you very soon. All right? Good looking, guys. It really, really helped us out. We appreciate it. So hopefully we can give you some good quality content now that things are hopefully back on track. All right, so thanks for watching. Bye.